Hi, this is Dave Consumer. I just wanted to talk about a few new features in poketrack. Today I'm sitting outside, so there's a lot of background noise. But okay, so essentially, the one of the first things I did was I set up like tempo sync for LFOs and for delay. And what this means is you can, so if we add a delay here, you can see it's set to free by default, which is like what it used to do. And so you can sync lines based on, you can sync the delay to how many lines there are. So for example, if we put in, here, let's delete that. So if we add like a drum, just something to make noise. And yeah, we'll make it a kick. Okay, so I've got it. There's 3 rests in between. So if we add a delay here, so this just hits like 4 lines, so it just goes to the next one basically. So you can't really hear the difference, but we do a feedback. Anyway, so you can hear it in the background. LFO works very similar. So normally we would have had free, which is like the default, right? But you can sync to different modes, and so similar to delay, you can get that LFO like linked up, which is good if you have like, if you want to, for example, if you wanted to like make the cutoff go up and down on a resonant low pass filter that's over like an oscillator. You can have it synced up to the track so that when it starts, that's when the period starts, and it resets all the LFOs and delay and all that stuff. It resets it back to the beginning, and then after that it time syncs it to whatever your BPM is. So the reason this is handy is that you can get like incredibly clean, synced sounding stuff that's like perfectly synced. Okay. So here's another one that's a little weird. I'm trying to add things to make it so you can build like full-on analog style synthesizers in here. And one of the things that I was thinking about was like routing, like being able to have like a bus that you can route things into, like an effects bus, is really handy. And sometimes you want like, an example is like, a lot of times I want like, maybe I have a kick and a snare on separate instruments because I'm using like the synthesizer, but I want them to distort each other when they hit the distortion. I want them to like kind of mess each other up, right? So let's do that. So I'll make a couple drums. Here's a kick, and I'll make a snare. Okay, so now we've got this. Actually, here, let's use separate tracks just to make it a little clearer. Also, it makes it so I can do this, which is much easier. Okay. So we have a simple beat, and let's route both of these to distortion. So we'll look through here, and I think it's called send or route. I can't remember what I called it. I've been making a lot of features, so it all gets kind of mixed up. Yeah, there it is, route. So mix is the amount that you want to send it, and FF means send it all. And then instrument is like, where do you want to send it to? So we're going to send it to 2. So that's the number of the bus. And so we're going to create a bus here on instrument 2. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to create a route. And I'm going to say instrument 2, and I'm going to turn the mix all the way up. Okay, so now we have this one and this one. They're both sending to the same place. So let's build our effect, our route endpoint. So if I do distortion and I turn the dry way up and the pre way up and the post way down, now both of these drums will go through the same bus for effects. Let's do another one. So we'll do, let's put this on 3, and we'll do a crazy hi-hat all the way through. So we'll do another drum. Man, there's so much background noise right now. Sorry about that. Okay, let's see what this sounds like. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is I forgot to make the router, so I'll add that. So I'm going to set the mix to 100 here, and I'm going to set the instrument. Let's see what it sounds like if I set the instrument to a bad one. So I'll set it to 4. So you can hear nothing happens. It works fine. It's totally normal. But if we go back here and we say, I want to use instrument 2. You can hear it routes correctly, and therefore it takes over. And so because of this, you have, now that we have a mixing bus, you can modify like how each one is mixed into that bus if you want. So here, I'll do that. Now, of course, with all these, another benefit is that you could run LFO on a single parameter that's in your output bus, and it would mess with all of them. So you can get nice like sounds for, you know, like if you had a whole drum kit, you could get like a nice fluid native sounding effect, and it basically just sounds like you plugged your drum machine into like a, you know, a guitar pedal or whatever, and that's the idea there. And then the last one I wanted to talk about is Juno. Now, this one is super crazy. So there was a project called Juno 21 where the author made like a full Juno 1 and 2 and a couple other synths that were in the same family, that like they used the same engine. They made an entire emulator for that and put it into a VST. Now, their emulator was written in C Sound, and there isn't a good way to like import C Sound into a clap plugin or anything. There isn't anything already made. So I built the emulator in assembly script, and I have a WASM plugin for it. So what this means is you basically get a Juno 1, 2, and a few others, like very classic, really versatile instruments that have a lot of parameters that are tied together. Now I talked about this before, like the sub bass thing I made. You could recreate that if you wanted to in these tracks, but for a really custom sound, like if you want it to be exactly the way you want it, and you want things to like mess with each other, like you want, the note in like kind of messes with the cutoff as well as the envelope for the volume, things like that. Then you can start building like custom things. And so I was thinking like, well, I could build it in Pure Data, but it seemed a little complicated. And what I really wanted was I wanted to be able to actually use Juno presets exactly. So you can go and find tons of Juno presets that you can download that were made on a real Juno synthesizer, and you can import them into the plugin. It's in code, so it's a little bit complicated, but I can help you with it if you need to do that. But long story short, I made this with a whole bunch of patch presets like built in. So this has 255 presets that are built in, that are basically like the 2 factory banks plus some internet favorite banks that people really like. And there's more notes about it on GitHub. There's a README about it, but essentially it's a whole bunch of really fancy old classic synths for free, and you can play these with MIDI. You can play them in here if you want, and you can sequence them. So let's mess with that. So this jazz guitar sounds pretty good for bass. So let's oh, you know what? I'll totally start over. Okay. So, all right. So let's build that again. So we've got plugin, and we add our Juno 1 from the examples and our patch, and then I'm going to set this to jazz guitar. All right. Now that's pretty quiet. Something I often do with things that are quiet that come from plugins is I just put a compressor at the end, and it'll kind of like clean it up and put it to whatever volume level you want. This is good, especially for the Juno, because it's pretty weird, honestly. Like there is no normalized volume. They all have like different kind of sounds, and they all have like different envelope presets and things like that. And they're using those presets to get the particular like sound family that they want. And there's no standard for like how loud should it be or whatever. So anyway, if you put a compressor on it, it pretty much sounds good for everything. So let's hear what that sounds like. And there are like tons and tons in here. Some of them sound a little weird. I need to troubleshoot synth bass. It's very short. It just doesn't sound right to me. It's kind of a little bloop. So there may be a problem there, but I don't know. Maybe that's what the real thing sounds like. I'll have to do some research. But cello sounds pretty cool. And this also, like, this is another one of those things where sometimes note offs will help and sometimes they won't. It just kind of depends on the preset and like how it's set up. So if you want to make your own presets, you can kind of do that. You just add all the parameters that you care about and then save it as an instrument, and you've got kind of the same thing. Maybe eventually I'll do something that like converts an instrument into a SysX patch, so you could actually play it on your real Juno if you wanted to, but that's probably a bit out of scope. So let's see. Yeah, so there's all these different options, and whenever you load something, it should like set everything that applies. So let's see what this sounds like. Yeah, so this is one that has its own envelope, so it doesn't really obey like the note off message. It just doesn't even pay attention to it. There's a lot of them that are like that. Some of them do though. It just kind of depends on how it was set up. Anyway, hopefully that'll be fun, and there's lots of different options in here, so you can just kind of play around with it, and you might find something that's really cool. I found a bunch of patches that were neat. Some of them don't translate well though. I noticed there's one called What The, which was like a classic. That was like a classic like rave, Juno thing. Like it was in like a bunch of songs. It doesn't sound quite right to me. It may actually just be the way that the note on and off things work. This is a variation of it, I think. Let's see. So that actually does improve it. I think the note. This is one of the ones that listens to the note off, and so I think honestly that does improve it a little bit. But anyway, experiment with those. You might have to really play with them to get them to sound good. But I think you can do a lot more stuff in here than you can just with like regular building instruments. So you might find a new sound there. Again, kind of the point of this is not necessarily like this is a perfect Juno emulation or anything like that. Although I think it's maybe pretty close. I don't know. I don't know if there's anything open source that's any better than the Juno 12. But the point isn't necessarily that. It's more like here's something you could do in your own custom plugin if you can think of it. And once you make a plugin and you compile it, you can give it to any of your friends. So like this plugin is ready to go. It'll work on the web. It'll work on any native version, all without recompiling it. You just hand somebody the file and it just works. And that's part of the joy of the plugin system is like you can just make weird ideas that you come up with. Or really standard ideas, you can implement them fast in whatever language you like, and it'll work. I think that's it. These features are all on the current release, and on September 1st, we have the Steam release. It's totally optional. You don't get anything on the Steam release that you wouldn't just get off releases on GitHub. So if you don't want to pay $5, really don't. Just grab it off the releases. That's totally fine. It's totally free. The main idea with the Steam thing is like it'll save you a little bit of time, so you can go. Like on my Steam Deck, I don't have to worry about I don't have to worry about installing it and setting up the shortcuts and making sure I have the latest updated version and going into desktop mode and pulling the updated version, all that stuff. So it's really for that. It's for like Steam Deck and stuff like that. Or if you just want to support the project, like that's a great way to do it. It's just $5, which isn't a lot, but it's not free. My thinking there is it costs money to list things on Steam, so it's meant to cover that. But anyway, feel free to get the free version. It's exactly the same. There's no difference at all. So grab it off GitHub if you don't want to pay. Okay, have fun.